Who lives in a house like this? It's easy to recognise who lives in certain houses. What tells us our Queen lives here? Something about it just oozes royalty. At Pentecost, the Holy Spirit came to Jesus' disciples and still comes to us today. And the Holy Spirit has come to dwell with us, to live within us. What an incredible thought. The book of Acts records what that day was like. When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like the rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues as of fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages, as the Spirit gave them ability. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven living in Jerusalem. And at this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered, because each one heard them speaking in the native language of each. Amazed and astonished, they asked, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear each of us in our own native language?" What tells others that God lives in us? When the Holy Spirit came, he revealed himself by different gifts and also by certain behaviours. The disciples Jesus left were not the confident, bold witnesses they became after the Spirit had come upon them. God was no longer the friend who walked with them for a time. He was the constant companion who lived with them at every moment. And the work which his presence within them accomplished was love. The fruit that the Holy Spirit produces in us is love. God desires that we would be living beings who house his love. But just like fruit takes time to grow, the plant going through many stages, it can take time for his love to put down roots within us. We have to recognize that we come to the Lord with nothing, so that he may fill us with his very self. Our part is to be willing to be filled, willing to be changed, willing to love as he loves. Have you surrendered each room in your heart to the Holy Spirit? Have you invited him into each area of your life? Little by little, our willingness to be transformed allows God to move in. C.S. Lewis once put it like this: imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps, you can understand what he is doing. He's getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably. It doesn't make sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is that he is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a new wing here, putting in an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were going to be made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. Next time you have an opportunity to share your faith and talk about the love of Jesus, I encourage you to remind yourself that the Holy Spirit lives within you. Trust that he will empower you with boldness and love, that he would make his home in others' lives too.